What's happening, everybody? I'm back. It's me, your resident supervillain, Mr. J. Washington, and I'm here with the episode 4 review for WandaVision on Disney+. Now, if you ain't seen this episode yet, come on back because it's going to be spoilers. Also, the episode is like 30 minutes apiece, so what are you really waiting on? Like, you wake up early, you can spend 30 minutes that you normally spend just sitting on your bed debating life to watch WandaVision. Nonetheless, I kind of told everybody this, and I was saying this from the beginning, from the first 2 episodes when people were like, I'm not sure if I like this, and then, you know, I told everybody it was a slow burn. They are building a story, and there's a reason behind everything, and things are starting to pick up. Then episode 3 with the pregnancy, the arrival of the twins, and Geraldine, Monica Rambeau getting kicked out of Westview, all these different things, and now they're coming together. And this one did some of that as well, except for this one was more of a giant exposition episode, and so it did a recap, catch up, if you will, of things within the WandaVision world, but still within the MCU universe. And I know all of it's together, but I had to separate it. For instance, we see in the not even just see, we hear the voices of Maria Rambeau, Captain Marvel, talking about Lieutenant Trouble, a younger Monica Rambeau, and then all of a sudden we see Monica materializing, if you will, and not understanding at first for a hot second until you see her go out the room and you hear all this commotion and whatnot, and you just hear a doctor say they're all coming back, and you like, oh shit, this is everybody returning from the blip, as they call it, the blip. Shouts out to Wednesday Marsh and many other people. The snapping sounds so much better. Snapping. But you see all these people returning, and you know everybody's confused and whatnot. And we see Monica come back, and she's trying to find her mom because she was in the hospital with her mother who had just had surgery. And she finds the doctor who was with her, and she's like, "Yo, where's my mother?" Blah 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 blah. And then she's like, "Yo, your mother died 3 years ago." And she's like, "Wait, what? No, it was just 20 minutes ago. She just came out of surgery." She was like, "Yeah, the cancer came back," and all these different things. And then she's like, "Yeah, your mother died 3 years ago, and that's 2 years after you disappeared." So we found out Monica got snapped, and so, you know, that plays into her. We see her going into SWORD, the headquarters of SWORD, and her trying to use her ID, and then dude at the front desk like, "Yo, your ID would work if you." Your ID would actually be active if you worked here. And she like, oh yeah. Now me and Wednesday Marshall, we did a special recap of this last night on stereo. If you have I'd say download the app on your iPhone or Android phone and follow myself individually, Mr. J. Washington. Follow the Swaggy Blur because we can't have a Blur's account because you got to have 2 people. So we just do it together. But we were talking about this, and Winston was like, yo, dude was an asshole. He basically was saying how dude could have recognized that maybe she was one of the people who were gone, who had come back. And I'm like, yo, my man probably just been on the gig 6 months. He finally got a job with real benefits. He ain't trying to fuck this up. Somebody told him, yo, you gonna get tested. People gonna be trying to have these ID badges, don't work. You need to make sure it's real and legit because this is what this is. It's high priority. It's SWORD. It's the evolution, if you will, of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I digress. And so we go back and we see her go in, and we see Director Hayward, and he's the one who approaches her at the desk and lets her in and everything. And we hear about how her mother, Maria Rambeau, started SWORD, which is so dope because Peggy Carter started S.H.I.E.L.D., Maria Rambeau started SWORD. And one of the things I also loved is that in just not just saying that Maria Rambeau started SWORD, or just have a plaque with just her name, we actually had the photo, which is of Lashana Lynch, which, you know, I'm not saying that the MCU will do this where they'll write a person out of their canon, but sometimes it's quick to just say, let's just throw a placard up and keep it moving. It's not a disrespect to care, but it's also acknowledging who played her mom and everything beforehand. So we find out, you know, again, she's coming back. Monica's coming back after everything that happened with the blip, which is on the screen, by the way, in SWORD. And, you know, she's trying to get reacclimated to everything. And she's told she can't fly. she can't, she's grounded and all these things, especially after coming back after the snap, and she's trying to fight this and be like, yo, I want to go back. Who said that I can't? And Hayward's like, your mother. Your mother set these rules in the event that people returned, to let them, get reacclimated to everything. And so, she's trying to fight it and whatever the case, and found out she has to go on a missing persons investigation. And she's like, that's not what I do. And it was like, no, they specifically said that you should go check this out. It felt like this was something best for you. And we see her go to WestView, where she meets with Agent Jimmy Woo, who, if you didn't pay attention, is still doing card tricks that we last saw him trying to do in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And when I say that is when he pulls out his FBI card, the way he does it is as a card trick. So it's a quick little subtle Easter egg to Ant-Man and the Wasp, to remind you where he's from. And again, those of us who are fans of the MCU at large and will remember different pieces and players and whatnot, and we see how all of the electric barrier and everything that happens with WestView, how cops don't, they acknowledge that WestView isn't a real town. There's an Eastview, New Jersey, not a Westview. We see eventually when Wanda puts her hand in and gets sucked into Westview. So then we fast forward and we get the arrival of Darcy Lewis, Kat Dennings' character from Thor: The Dark World, where she's with a group of other people who are nuclear biologists, nuclear physicists, and all these different people, and they're brought basically try to explain this anomaly that is Westview, and they don't understand. And while she's studying the radiation, she's now a full-fledged doctor in astrophysics, excuse me. And while she's trying to explain this, she understands that she realizes that, there's a certain wavelength and a broadcast frequency. And she puts up one of the old spectrometers, and it starts to show a visual. And she just decides to get an old vintage TV, and she sees Wanda, the WandaVision TV show, if you will. And so she's watching it, and Jimmy Woo's like, they're trying to figure out the universe created the universe created a sitcom with two Avengers. And he also was like, wait, Vision's dead, he's dead. Well, and for some, I was bringing this up with Winston. Many people, I don't know how many people would know. I think it would be known that Vision was dead, but I think I felt it would be attributed to Vision being gone with the snap, not having his whole forehead region ripped out by Thanos. And I say that because, again, this was part of the battle in Wakanda. Again, the world is still recovering from the loss of half of all existence, and you having the body being there and whatnot. And so everybody's like, I thought Vision was dead. But then we start trying to figure out all these different things, and we start to see the moment in which Wanda in the last episode kicks Geraldine out. And we see her snap, if you will. Not a snap, but a snap in a sense. And her realizing after Geraldine says Ultron, and she's like, you don't belong here. And so now things are starting to add up more and more that, yes, this is a reality that Wanda created. It's not just a mental reality per se. It's a town she's created to keep a level of peace, to restore some level of balance to herself. And then she throws Rambo out. We also see Jimmy Woo and Darcy start to put together a whiteboard of trying to understand things. Why is it in a hexagon shape? Is Vision actually alive? These questions. And they start to figure out who the supporting characters are. They're being played by certain people who were missing, I'm assuming, or from this town. But one of the things, if you noticed, again, spoilers, like I've been doing all review, they never give an identity to Agnes, which further can lean into the Agatha Harkness theory, which many people are like, yo, it's Agatha Harkness, and I'm one of those people as well. But I was saying this again with Winston last night, and I wanted to reiterate it. What if we put so much into believing a certain thing is going a certain way, and then Marvel swerves us? Now, that has happened, and sometimes it is straightforward what we think it is. But it would be unique. Like, for instance, we all believe that the entity that's controlling Wanda to make all of this happen and going further in depth is the devil, aka Mephisto. But what if, in all actuality, it's Baron Mordo or Dormammu? Because if you remember, This is going to feed into Doctor Strange, into the Multiverse of Madness. So it would work that way. But again, could it be Mephisto? Absolutely. But again, could Mephisto and Dormammu be working together? Who knows? But I always say there's different possibilities, and people are saying even though we get even if we get Mephisto, are we going to get Nightmare as well? Different things. And so again, the realm of possibility is open. But one of the dopest things that happens is we get to see Dead Vision, and we see Dead Vision in all his dead glory. And what I mean by that is we return to the scene in the TV show, which one of the dope things was it went back from 4:3 in the 60s, 70s TV sitcom style back to widescreen 16:9. And when Wanda is talking about the babies and Vision walks in, she sees Vision with his whole forehead shit out. I think that was one of the biggest pop scenes for anybody I've talked to or read that has seen this episode. Was like, yo, to see that was real. But also, if you remember in the comics, Great Vision is a thing. And so the possibility is also Wanda, after Tony Stark's funeral in Endgame, may have went back to Wakanda to get the body of Vision. And once she gets the body of Vision, she goes, and then as she's probably trying to, figure out what to do, she has his body, she's probably attacked by Mephisto, or, Mephisto approaches her some way, and then she makes a deal to have her life back the way it was and what she wants. But to see that, and at one point she sees that and she snaps back out of it, in a sense. She sees the reality of Vision. Because we've seen, when the beekeeper who we thought was the Grim Reaper, who actually was a scout from S.W.O.R.D., who went in through the sewer to get in, and when he crossed the barrier, it changed his scouting equipment into what looked like a beekeeper. So that's why we saw that. That's why we saw the toy helicopter look like it was with the S.W.O.R.D. logo, when it's actually a drone with a camera. Everything that came into the barrier that Wanda has created, which we find out in a sense, it goes retro. So whenever Wanda has something that isn't to her liking in her reality, she resets it. We've seen this in several episodes. We've seen this all the way through. Darcy even realized that when Wanda is talking to Geraldine after Geraldine mentions Ultron, and she says, I think you should go, and then there's a cut, and then it comes back, and Vision and Wanda are sitting on the couch with the twins. Now, one of the many things, Wanda resets this reality. Like I said, when Monica Rambeau comes out and S.W.O.R.D. all, surrounds her and they're checking her, and she say, it's Wanda. It's all Wanda. The whole thing. Not to mention that we see earlier, that, Darcy and Agent Wu work together to send the transmission into the radio to contact Wanda. But Wanda is controlling reality, so when it doesn't fit her way, she resets it to what she wants. Again, seeing Dead Vision back to the normal Vision of what we've been seeing in the past several episodes. But at one point, Vision is like, Wanda, maybe we should go. Maybe we can leave. And then Wanda tells him, we can't. This is our home. And Vision is like, okay, you say so. Because Vision is a puppet, in a sense. Like, he doesn't know fully what to do. Wanda is bringing him back to life and reimagining him, if you will, but it's a hollow shell. Vision's life, his essence, was the mixture of Jarvis, the Ultron program within itself, many others, and the Mind Stone. And with all of that, and the majority of his forehead region ripped the fuck out, it's not there. So anything that Vision mentions, Wanda can suggest, if you will, and it changes the tone. Again, in the first episode with the dinner with the Hearts, when Mr. Hart was choking and Vision was just sitting there like, I don't know. And then when she said, Vision, do something. Again, normally Vision would have done it on his own. But he had to be suggested, if you will. There's so much to unpack now, because again, yes, this episode was exposition. It gave you a further, it added the layer underneath for everybody to understand the structure of why things. Now, the question was asked in the episode, why the sitcoms? Why the 50s and 60s and 70s sitcoms and whatnot? And here's my theory on this, and you all may agree, you all might have some different thoughts. That's what I want to hear from y'all in the comments below. My belief, Wanda grew up in Sokovia, and growing again, Sokovia wasn't a fully thriving country, if you will, from what we saw in Age of Ultron. They probably had just recently started getting the 50s, 60s, and 70s sitcoms, even in the time in which Age of Ultron is set. So they get those, and so now that's what Wanda grows up on. That's what she and her brother watched growing up. Were the Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, the Partridge Family, Brady Bunch. They grew up on those later from when we've already had them here in the States, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that was the reality she knew and she wanted. And so that's what she's made. And so within this reality, because it's a comforting reality for her, it's the family element. And anything that's trying to change that, she can change. But at the same time, there is an outward influence. Is it Mephisto? More than likely. More than likely. Could it be Dormammu? Possibility. Will Doctor Strange show up? Doctor Strange 9 times out of 10 is going to show up in the end credit scene of the finale of WandaVision. That's when he'll show up. But we're seeing so much more, and now I watched this, and I felt like seeing Kat Dennings more so made this feel like the first Thor. This episode in general. How, remember in the first Thor when you had S.H.I.E.L.D. surrounding Mjolnir and they were doing all the tests and everything, and Jane Foster is, studying the stars, and then she sees Thor arrive, and, she's trying to figure out what exactly the Bifrost is, et cetera, et cetera. It feels similar with what Kat Dennings is doing with S.W.O.R.D. You know what I'm saying? So it had that. That's why it felt like the first Thor, but it felt better than the first Thor. I'm not killing the first Thor. I get the first Thor was a Shakespearean play, directed by Kenneth Branagh to give us that feel of Thor and the Old Father Odin and Loki and et cetera, and Laufey and the Frost Giants. I don't know why I felt like I had to perform King Lear or some shit. But we got all, that's what was my feeling. Now, I was reading a lot of different reviews and on Twitter last night because, of course, when I watched it, it's midnight. I watched it when it dropped, and from like midnight, then after that, I think till about maybe 1:30. After I got done watching until 1:30, Winston and I did our, small review on stereo, and I was reading, and then I saw something how people were like, well, I wish this was more, and then I saw people saying that they didn't like the fact that this is doing a trope of a crazy woman because of a loss of a man. And here's where I get, everyone has a difference of opinion. I absolutely understand that and respect that. I get everybody is going to feel a certain way about how they receive and ingest certain things, and their perception is going to be their perception. Now, for many, perception is reality. That is a phrase that has been around for I don't know how long. But again, my opinion, it's not just the loss of a man. It's the loss of everything. Yes, she loses the love of her life in Vision. But you have to remember, the love of her life only is able to supplement the loss of the closest person she's ever had in her brother. She's lost everything, literally. She lost her parents. In the process of losing her parents, her and her brother bond even tighter. They're twins anyway, so they've always been together. Then she loses her brother. Then she loses the person she loves. There is just loss on top of loss on top of loss on top of loss. There isn't just one loss that drives Wanda to the point, to the breaking point. And because I know it is considered a very problematic trope. I think we overuse words like problematic and certain things. Not knocking the word, but it's just that you hear it every chance you get. It's a regular adjective into any and everything now. It's not playing the, oh, she's crazy because she lost a man. She lost her boyfriend. It's not playing that. It's the you have everything consistently going wrong in her life. You have her having loss in general after loss after loss. Every time she has someone that is family, the love of your life is family. All of her family she has lost consistently. Again, her home in Sokovia, her parents, her brother, her lover, who she brings back to life in the form of a living vibrator, who clearly keeps going and going, and Viz now has capabilities. I mean, we know naturally Vision can't produce sperm, but there's a whole nother biological discussion. But I just think it's that. I've seen that. I've seen people who are like, well, I don't get what they're doing, and this is supposed to feel different from any Marvel show, but it feels like a regular Marvel movie or whatever. It is different and still a Marvel movie, a Marvel product at the same project, at the same time. I don't know what people were expecting with this. I expected something different, and that's what we got. Something different out the gate. We got something different. And when we got something different out the gate, I think people started showing that people and I use this as a general term and a general phrase, people were upset because it wasn't an immediate continuation of Avengers Endgame. It wasn't a shoot 'em up, bang bang, action out the gate. So then you had people like, well, I don't like this, and so it's a story build. Again, I trust Marvel Studios because of the track record in which they've put out when it comes to telling stories. I trust the way they build a story. Again, have they had misses in my opinion? Absolutely. I felt like every single bit of exposition we got in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we probably could have got in one. You know what I'm saying? Some things in Captain Marvel didn't work, but they did. But also I understood the concept of this is set in the 90s. In the 1990s. This is not set in the current timeline or whatever at the time. These different things. Thor the Dark World. This is a 2-hour plot device for just the ether. The Dark Elves, and you just had to have a story around it. But all it is a story to tell. It is a movie to tell the story for an Infinity Stone to move forward. I got it. It's a miss to me, but I got it. They're building Wanda to be a secondary villain, more than likely, to Baron Mordo in Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness. Because also, she is still just Wanda Maximoff. Throughout WandaVision, towards the end, she will be considered the Scarlet Witch officially. She is not called that. This is the transition from Wanda Maximoff, which I get it. Yes, Wanda Maximoff is the Scarlet Witch, but they haven't called her that. There's a reason. And yes, this is the Visions. There's a lot of story from the Visions. There's House of M vibes and all this with her recreating a new reality. You just gotta... The story is unfolding. This is one long movie that we're watching that is broken up into segments. This is a long film that is broken up into segments. Again, everyone's going to have a difference of opinion on this. I have my own as well, but I also try to put out hopefully what people can get and see and think about different things. There's so many other little different tidbits here. But also, I forgot to bring up earlier, Winston has a belief that Herb is really the High Evolutionary because of a relationship in the comics that the High Evolutionary and Agatha Harkness have. I wonder if that's possible still now that they've done the cast reveal, if you will. They figured out if the cast are actual people. Now, it's a possibility they can still, he's a regular person, but the High Evolutionary is living among people. Different things. Again, we found out Stan Lee was the Watcher, and he took the form of different people throughout different points in time in the MCU. So, It is what it is. But I want to know what you think in the comments below. Did you enjoy episode 4 of WandaVision? Are you getting into it? Do you see kind of where they're going? Are you waiting to see more, etc., etc.? Let me know, all right? And while you're here, subscribe to the channel, please. Click on the notification button so you can figure out when I'm dropping more of these. I got reviews, all that stuff, trailer reactions, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to do more and more, especially since I got this free time, I guess. So go ahead and do that. And follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Mr. J Washington, MRJAY. You should know how to spell Washington. Check out the Mad Titan podcast. Everywhere you get your podcasts from, I get you caught up on all the things happening in Marvel and DC. Live action and cinematic universes. It is barbershop talk for nerds. Come on in the convo, all right? Check out Blurs in the Hood every Tuesday and Thursday live on YouTube, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. on the East Coast with myself and Winston A. Marshall. We get you caught up and talk about the world of pop culture, sports, news, politics, and a whole lot more from a blurred perspective, and we are unapologetically black. And we are on stereo as well. At Mr. J Washington, Swaggy Blurred. And I think that's about it, all right? Holla at y'all next week for episode 5. Take care. I'm out. Bye.